So the next question is, how do I know that my company needs a global patent portfolio strategy? And um, there's lots of reasons why you might want to pursue patents outside of the country you reside in. First and foremost, you may be making profits in those areas, like this product has a market there, you plan to expand into those markets. Patents go country by country, so that you have rights, for example, in the United States, does not mean you can stop anybody in Canada or Mexico or Europe or Russia. So you have to go and apply for patents in each country, or sometimes there's multi-country protection, like in Europe. There's a way to kind of have some synergies there. There's a couple things like that in Africa and Russia to go and pursue multiple jurisdictions, but it gets very expensive very quickly. So make sure before you embark in that sort of strategy, you can get an idea on the costs, and whoever's helping you with your patents ought to be able to give you estimates on those costs. Find out what the estimates are, not just to start that process, but to follow it through the argument phase, and then ultimately pay all the government fees and the taxes and that sort of thing, so you know that this patent in, say, Japan is going to cost you over the life cycle $50,000. And then you have to sit there and say, well, stopping a competitor from doing this one thing that's in the patent, should I get it, is that worth spending $50,000 on pursuing? Another thing that might happen is that you have a competitor, even if it's a local competitor, their main market is somewhere else. So I'll give another example is, say you're only doing business in the United States, but as it turns out, your biggest competitor in the United States makes most of the money in Mexico, right? So to have a patent battle in the United States is not going to be particularly harmful to them, but you could assert a patent, an equivalent patent in Mexico. And sometimes you have very clear vision on who your competitor is or who your enemies are. Often you don't. It's very evolving, so that's a pretty rare strategy. More so what people will try and do is they'll try and look at the footprint of where they can make money and then weigh it against the costs, right? Generally, each jurisdiction that you pursue a patent on in is somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000. So it adds up very, very quickly, right? But it goes country by country. The thing that you got to realize is that you get broader protection than the countries you file in. So for example, say I have a very large patent portfolio in the United States. Well, what's the likelihood someone can really launch a similar product and only sell into Canada? Canada has, 1/6 the population of the United States. So their economics for protecting that market and building out that market, they might not be there. Some products require a lot of investment before you can make money in a given country. And if they can't spill over to the border into the United States, it makes it very difficult to try and build out the North America market. Similarly, there's key markets in Europe, Germany, France, UK, where you might get protection in just those jurisdictions, and then who's going to release a product if they can only go into Monaco and Liechtenstein and some of these smaller jurisdictions. So you don't really need to go into every country exactly. You just need to make it painful enough so your competition doesn't want to introduce a competing product. And especially when we're talking about Europe, is the borders are very porous. So say you had a very big patent strategy, a patent portfolio going in Germany, most products, with rare exceptions, Germany is going to be a very large market. So if you want to cause that competitor pain, you build up that patent portfolio and then you start asserting them in Germany. And they're going to probably have to shut down through most of Europe, right? Because, many of the sales channels that they would sell through in the retail stores are all across Europe. And a lot of retailers don't want to sell in this country and not that country and stuff like that. It makes the logistics very, very difficult. So sometimes you can leverage that. But that's basically the answer, is look to see where you're going to make money and how the market's going to evolve over the term of the patent. And patents, generally 20 years from filing. So you're often looking 5, 10, 15 years out. Look at what you think that market is going to be. Look at the costs. Look at the probabilities. You may have aspirations to be in 180 countries, but it might not make sense to file on all of them if you haven't built out that market yet. You might just pick key markets, and there are key markets in particular areas, and those key markets often will serve as a block. And the rule of thumb that I give clients is you want to lock up 60% of the revenue for this product as inexpensively as possible. And for a lot of products, like in the area my legal services practice is most centered on, is in electronics and software. And if you can get US and Europe, maybe somewhere in Asia like China, you can lock up most of the market for many, many products. And there you might be looking at a strategy that's going to cost you less than $100,000 to get coverage in those three jurisdictions and get a whole lot of capture of that market. And you leave a competitor at trying to scale up their business model, looking at these secondary markets, avoiding the big ones. It ends up being a real mess. But some companies might have a market defined by the number of people, and you're going by a head count market. Maybe it's a really inexpensive product that's very universal. So then China looks great, India looks great, US looks great, Europe looks great, Indonesia looks great. You just kind of go down the list, looking at the number of people that could buy it. So drug manufacturers very much that way, right? They're also looking at what people can afford and that sort of thing. But figure out what the revenue model is for your product and try and protect 60% of that as cheaply as possible, and you'll do very good. So I hope that answers the question. If there are any follow-ups or additional questions, please put them in the comments below, and I'll get to it in a future recording. Thank you.